Welcome once again to Exit Philosophy. He's Mal Romanen. I'm Rich Griffin. And the weather is still pretty unspring-like out there, unbaseball-like out there. And the Jays are coming back as we record on Friday morning, the Jays are coming back to face the Braves in a three-game series on Monday. We'll see how the attendance is now that the Vlad situation has been settled. As you notice, Mal, I'm wearing my
Yes.
Montreal Royals tribute hat. It's Jackie Robinson Day on the 15th, marking the anniversary of his breaking the color barrier in 1947. So that was his debut with the Brooklyn Dodgers. So in tribute to that, I'm wearing this hat.
Is he back in the good graces of the people in Pittsburgh, taking his little sign down?
Yeah, the Clemente side. I mean, there's so I spent an evening with Roberto Clemente Jr. and I know in Puerto Rico, and he's a huge celebrity down there.
Oh,
Like we walked into the lobby of the San Juan Hotel, and
yeah.
all these women dressed to the nines showed up and were just hovering around Roberto Jr., who is not like Adonis out there, but he is Roberto Clemente Jr.
You
And
know,
he
my
issued,
dad, my dad was my hero, but I wish he gifted me slightly like that.
but he issued the family statement of disappointment in the Pirates. And they came back and they did the right thing after doing the wrong thing.
And
The
what
wrong thing will be remembered.
from two guys in PR, what a classy statement that was by Junior. I
Yeah.
mean, when I read it, I go, that's just the perfect tone, just hit the perfect notes. I mean, I was so impressed that how that came across. So yeah, well done, and
They,
obviously they came to their senses. I'm not
yeah.
sure how that even happened, to be
Yeah,
honest.
it was a memorial in right field
Right.
at PNC Park, and they took it down without consulting the family, without telling anyone, and replaced it with a an ad, which is the worst thing they could have done. Anyway, they replaced that, but then John Perotto, who is one of the beat writers, who is the dean of beat writers in Pittsburgh, sent me a photo of a pile of bricks in a junkyard. And one of those bricks, they were all the same, but one of them, John Perotto and his mother bought a tribute brick for their father who passed away and was a big Pirates fan. And for some reason, the Pirates seemed to have dug up all those bricks and were throwing them out. So something is wrong in Pittsburgh.
Some things, yes,
I
that's
mean,
right.
they've got Paul Skeens
Something in the
and
water.
they've got O'Neill Cruz, and they just something's going on
I
there.
just don't like prosperity there,
Yeah.
apparently. So that is effed up. Sorry. So did they salvage those bricks? Do you know?
No,
Or
that was I saw the photo and the note yesterday, so I'm
oh,
sure they'll try and do something to make up for it, but you shouldn't have to be making up for affairs of the heart for moments like that for
well,
gestures that fans have made for your greatest player of all time, and then you replace his tribute with an ad. Something's terribly
that's
wrong.
not the state of things these days. I don't know what is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. One thing that was done right, and you talked about Roberto Clemente Jr.'s statement and how classy it was. Another classy moment was when Vlad Guerrero Jr. came out of the clubhouse to give his victory press conference.
Victor. He did win that fight. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he began without even being asked with a thoughts and prayers moment to victims. There's almost 200 dead in the Jet Set nightclub roof
Unbelievable.
collapse, including former Blue Jay Octavio Dotel, a relief pitcher. A lot of people remember him, I think, from the 2011 season. Um, and he played for 13 teams, so there's a lot of teams that
He
are
did.
remembering Octavio Dotel. Um, the big crowd was there for the merengue singer Robbie Perez, who was Nefi Perez's brother, who was also a former major leaguer, and he survived. Um, but Nelson Cruz's sister is a governor of one of the provinces in the northeast of Dominican Republic, and she perished in the accident too. So, I mean, I hate the expression thoughts and prayers,
Yeah,
but let's send that out
I can.
to everyone. And I was texting with Gord Ash, who's down in the Dominican, and that's sort of his responsibility, the Brewers Dominican complex. He's sort of evolved into that. And I was texting with him about something else, and he said about what a national days of mourning is happening all across the Dominican. So, yeah, it is a huge deal, and it's moments like that where you realize that how little sports and baseball actually
Oh, it's
mean
such
in
a tragedy.
the scheme of
I
life.
mean, I can remember. I was obviously I was with Octavio in 2011 when we had him, and he pitched for us the same way he pitched for everybody. He was just effective, not a lot bothering. He pitched really well for us. I can remember one time in Texas. We're leaving the ballpark, and it's a long walk out to where the buses are, and there's if anybody doesn't know, there's always a staff bus and a player bus. So to come out, it's the staff buses in front, the player buses in back. You come, you board it, and I'm just, doing whatever I do after a game, thinking about, geez, let's go to the bar and hash this one out again. Anyways, I'm walking, minding my own business. I get between the buses and bam, the horns just pounding on the horn. I threw my bag in the air. It almost knocked me into the staff bus. I look up and there's Dotel just sitting in the driver's seat, chuckling away. He waited for me to get between the buses and just hammered on the horn, and was one of the funniest things. I'll never forget it. See, he was quite a character. Even in that short time, he was always jovial, always screwing around, always having fun. He was a veteran then, so it
There,
was caused a lot of laughter amongst a lot of people,
there,
including myself.
there's a certain commonality over the years and among all the clubhouses in baseball, and that's the sort of incident that you can't get away from. If you're a support staffer, if you're in PR, if you're and then it doesn't matter who the 25 or 26 man roster is, there's always moments like that, and it's why we loved it, right?
It is beautiful, and I'm not sure it's like that anymore. But back in our day, Griff, there was a small traveling party. You really kind of felt united, like this was our group because there wasn't a lot of staff. Now, they might have a third bus for crying out loud. You know what I mean? So I don't know if it's the same, but certainly back then you were, you felt a lot closer with the players and just the entity that was the team. So. Yeah, everybody got a turn at sometime or another. That was mine.
Yeah, these days you can go out, stay out too late, wake up in the morning to do what you need to do, and call up and get the team massage and the team therapy. You can get a
Yeah.
guy to come up and you can explain how you're messed up
Yeah.
and head to the ballpark. Now,
And
in
head to the
those days, you're on your own.
oh boy, were you want? Yeah, it was up to Griff to do all those
Oh yeah,
mental. You were the mental coach. I'm.
physician, heal thyself. All right, the Vlad contract. Vlad contract is the big news. I mean, it's something that we had been talking about all winter, that everybody's been talking about. You didn't think it would get done. I was thinking it would get done.
Right.
But there were twists and turns in the road that we'll talk about. But what ripples do you think it creates of not just one player, one huge contract, but around the clubhouse, around baseball, around. Let me start with just what does it mean for Bo?
Well, for any player, I think in this game, and obviously speaking of the Blue Jays, I mean, I think it's a real positive. I think it shows ownership is committed to obviously this type of player. I wouldn't say this group. That sounds silly, but you can't complain about what ownership is committed as far as resources. And this is obviously the one that had to get done. It's unfortunate that it came to this point, and I think it's been very poor asset management. I think I've been critical of this management team for that all along. This is no exception, but they had to get it done. And I think it helps first basemen across this league. As you've mentioned before, first basemen aren't valued the same way, whether you agree or not. They clearly have not been. That's just historical. You pay more for guys that have more of a defensive impact in the game, and this just certainly raises the bar. So if I'm a first baseman out there, I'm pretty excited about this transpiring. That's a lot of dough. I mean, he's got the third highest contract, or the second highest in present day value. It passes Otani, which
Yeah, don't give me that.
yeah, but it literally does, whether you like it or not.
Yeah,
I
but
mean
how
that
about
that's
2034,
insane, by the way.
2034 to 2039? Otani's money is devalued and Vlad's money for the same years is taken at full value. Why? Why is one considered devalued and the other at face value? That's
Well,
the
it's
that's the
present day
issue I
value is
have.
money. That's why. I mean,
All
it's
right, well then Otani's his money too. His 68 million that he's
yeah.
collecting from 34 to 44 or 35 to 34 to 43 is real money.
Oh, it's real money. That's right. In
Anyway,
theory, it'll be
so
worth less
I
then.
interrupted your thought on first baseman, and to me, like Freddie Freeman and Matt Olson and guys like that were, and Bryce Harper even. I mean, now that he's a full-time first baseman, and Vlad blew them all out of the water. And
And well, thank you, Juan Soto. Vladdy definitely should send a thank you card and maybe an extra couple bottles of champagne for his hot tub parties.
yeah,
There's no question
very clever.
that this is all from Soto, and it raised his bar, and he was able to kind of, have these guys over a barrel, and obviously ownership decided that they needed to pay the ransom, so to speak, and I get it. I
Yeah,
get it. Uh,
getting back to Bo for me, the question becomes. Do the Jays believe that they can afford Bo after the money they've spent on Vlad? Do they believe that Bo can be a part of the future at the money that he'll be looking for? And if not, if they already know that they can't afford a shortstop at that level, and it won't be a Vlad level, it'll
right.
be more comparable to Dansby Swanson and that sort of a deal. Um, but
Which is wild when you think about it. He's a shortstop.
yeah,
Like if Bo goes out and has a Bo year, I mean, he's capable of leading this league in hits. He's always been at that level, just outside of last year. Dude, he's a shortstop.
you look at the Red Sox series, and there were at least two that I can think of off the top of my head where he just smoked the ball and got robbed defensively by a guy who you wouldn't expect would rob him defensively. So it's early in the season. I can see him getting 200 hits.
Of course you can.
Yeah.
He looks great. He looks
And
great.
in a free agent walk year, that's the question. If the Jays don't believe they can sign him, if they believe that a good year puts him out of their price range, now that they're paying so much money to Vlad, do they trade him at the deadline? I mean, where do they have to be to trade him at the deadline? Personally, I would not. I'd ride it. Um, the only problem is then you end up with you qualify him, which is ridiculous. It'll be like $23 million. He's
Right.
not going to take that one
He's
year.
not.
Um, so what do you do? Would you trade him at the deadline? Would you consider it if the a deal for like one guy that could help and then a prime prospect was involved?
I think you have to. I think you have to consider that. I mean, the only way you don't do that, Griff, and this is my point about asset management. It shouldn't be an issue at this time, but here we are. You should never get to this point with your guys like that, but we're here. So would I trade him? Yes, unless you're sitting comfortably in a postseason berth. I think you have to. What's the difference of keeping him and still being able to sign him in the offseason at that point. You trading him shouldn't change your chances because you're going to have to pay the most money regardless at this stage. So I think you have to do what's best for the future of the club. So
Yeah, I mean, to me, if you sign Bo for an 8 to 10 year deal, and you have Arjun Namala that they believe can be that guy. I mean, he's highly touted, and they're touting him internally and externally to us even more. If he's going to be your guy in 3 years, then you're going to have Bo move. At this moment in time, shortstop is one of the stronger
it is actually.
positions in the minor league system. So, I love Bo, and
Well,
the reason I said I wouldn't trade him is if they're above 500 and
right.
think they can uh, go down the stretch and capture a wild card position and get a foot in the door of October
They're
next
not
spring.
going to trade him if they're in that position. They're
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
And I'm sure in the back of their minds, plan B is Jimenez moves over to short until Arjun's ready. But then you've got to go out and find a hitter somewhere.
Yeah.
You've got to go get your big third baseman. Uh, you got to find it to replace what Bo
Well,
brings you.
The
You
other
know what I
thing
mean?
is the other thing is that you have built for the last 3 years a team that's built around rotation and defense. And if you decide that you're going to move uh, Andres Jimenez to shortstop, and then maybe your best bet is Orelvis Martinez, and then Addison Barger maybe at third base, your defense suffers tremendously in that regard.
Right, right.
I mean, you got more pop, you got more power at the plate, but I don't know what the balance is for them, especially if with a younger starting rotation that would be relied upon at that point.
Yeah, because you're losing guys.
Yeah.
You're losing guys.
What does the Vlad contract mean for Mark and Ross? I mean,
Well, that's a good question
it
because
seems
I
to
mean,
me
we've
that it seems to me that this is a deal with no hidden paragraphs, clauses
nothing.
that could have been done 6 months ago.
Yeah,
That could have been done
there
right after the Soto signing.
yeah, this wasn't, oh, let's figure out this thing got bogged down by opt-outs and deferrals and all that stuff. And this was as simple a contract as you could get. This tells you clearly this was an ownership play and not the current management structure. This clearly was an ownership play coming in here and making this get done at this time. So I can imagine that you know, the PR mess that this kind of became was something ownership didn't want to continue. And I think they wanted to make sure got done and everybody understands that, the clubhouse, the players, that ownership believes in these guys and ownership wants to ensure that Vladdy's here. And to me, they clearly stepped in and got this done because what was so difficult about this?
Yeah.
Nothing.
The bottom line to me is that Rogers ownership will be here in 2039, and I can guarantee you that Mark and Ross will not. So
Right.
the
And
deal
I
is being
bet
made.
I'll guarantee you, Vladdy, that was part of the discussion.
Yeah.
Seriously.
but but I think it says a lot that Vlad Guerrero Jr.'s representation, his agents came to town for a weekend and spent most of it at the Rogers building
Correct.
rather
Correct.
than in a private suite at the Rogers Center.
Yeah, this one got sent to the upper levels, you know, the the better suites, if you could say that. Correct. They were up a Bay of Blur there. So and which gives should give Jays fans hope that where I would say the chances were less than zero that they could retain Bo, that perhaps there is some hope there. So Bo would see what Vladdy got, and
Well, he's not going to get that.
no,
Yeah.
but he might consider staying because this goes beyond the management structure. This goes past them at this point. So I'm just wondering if that shows Bo that hey, they're gonna outlive all these guys anyways. So you know,
All right. So you make a good point there that Bo that will affect Bo because he's said, and who knows how serious he had been when he said he wants to play his whole career with Vlad. To do that, he needs to re-sign with the J.
Sure. That's right.
But now that brings into because we've been adamant that if Vlad goes somewhere else, then Bo would be going somewhere else. Then Jose Barrios would definitely take his opt out after the 20. What
Right.
year after 26? 28.
One more year, isn't it?
Yeah, after the 26, he'll
26.
definitely take his opt out. So now does the ripple of that contract with Vlad, does that affect Barrios and his decision moving forward? Because if he decides to stay, now you've got your veteran ace starter.
Yep.
You've got a couple of guys that you just drafted that could be 2 or 3 years away. Trey Savage and Cal Steven. They're both pitching in the Florida State League, which is upper class. No, it's lower class A because
Yeah.
Vancouver is now the upper class A. But they could they could reach double A by the end of the season. And now you've got
Sure they can.
the possibility of Manoah coming back. You've got Easton Lucas, who was one of 8 pitchers thrown against the wall, and he's the one who stuck.
He's temporarily sticking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
temporarily sticking. You have Bowden Francis, who surprises me at how effective he continues to be.
You cannot, I mean, if we can have any more no-hitters going into
Yeah.
the middle innings of games, I mean, hey man, all you could do is just appreciate what he's doing right now. It's incredible.
So, um, do you think Barrios will definitely,
Well,
or
hey,
he'll
this
consider it
clearly
next year?
helps.
Yeah.
It clearly helps everything when you make a statement like this. It helps everything. You can just see the vibes that the ripple effect through the clubhouse, how everybody's really happy about it, and ownership has made a statement. That being said, if the honeymoon period will end and they're going to have to win ball games. So it's going to come down to what they do past this. Is this team competitive? And will they show an ability to add to this team and make it competitive because they've gone backwards in the last several years. So yeah, I think it helps. There's no question. Like I said, I think it even helps with Bo and what his plans would be and his questions to ownership. And Barrios, this kind of stuff is huge, but you got to win games. You got to win games because that's the whole point. These guys want to win baseball games.
So now imagine, and the last effect that I'll ask you about is imagine a January board meeting at the Rogers campus, Edward Rogers and all his people there. And they look and they go, oh my God, Mark Shapiro convinced us to spend $400 million on renovations to the stadium and another whatever 200 million on
Dunedin.
the on Dunedin on the player development complex. And look at our ticket sales. Look at
Yeah,
it. People,
crazy.
the fans are pissed off.
Mhm.
They're not buying. Let's make $9 upper deck packages of 4 games, or if you want 6, we'll make it 6. But
That's
they
right.
must have sat at those meetings and said, why did we spend 400 million if we can't put people in the ballpark? Let's give more than 400 million to one player and see if that turns it around. But the point being, how much, and I've said this, and we've said this on Exit Philosophy that the renovations to the stadium and the PDC in Dunedin will prevent this organization from ever going into a full rebuild. It'll always be a reload because they need to get people coming to the ballpark. They need consistency with that. And we saw what happens when the fans do not believe what is going on. They don't believe the path. So, do you think that this will, as the season goes on, because we saw 40,000 on opening day and then nothing over 30, nothing even, most of them were around 20 announced, tickets sold,
Right,
but less in the stadium.
right.
Do you think that starting with the Braves series, when Vlad trots out there and gets a standing ovation, that it will help correct that issue of asses in seats?
Yeah, I think that's the point of the signing. and you're right. There should never be a rebuild. Griff, rebuilds are bullshit. Let's be honest with you. Like this team is a behemoth. This isn't hockey. There isn't a hard salary cap. You know what I mean? This isn't football with a cap. This, there's a luxury tax. But did the Dodgers rebuild? Do the Yankees rebuild? The Red Sox chose to be bad for profit. There is no excuse for that. The Blue Jays are the Dodgers. They are the Yankees. That's where they live, and that's where they should have always lived. And they're actually living there now. So full marks to this ownership group for actually living there now. Yeah, too much money has been invested. You invest the money to get a return, not to have 18,000 people in the ballpark and nobody buying your beers, etc. So that's where this play came with that, Vladdy. I'm sure it's like we got to establish we're competitors every year. There's no excuse for a rebuild. I mean, you're allowed to rebuild on the fly in baseball. Like choosing to be bad is a choice, not something that the rules stick you with like you do in other sports.
So if they do trade Bo, what we're saying is that it won't be for three young prospects that are still 3 years away. It can't be.
You don't need to do that if you're the Toronto Blue Jays. You have too many resources. Can you trade him for a blue chipper? Sure, but you still, if you want to do that, knock yourself out. But you have the ability to add through other avenues, such as free agency, to replace Bo immediately. And still, you can choose to do the three prospects, but you best go out and get a free agent to remain competitive. You can do that.
I
You're
just
right.
want to follow up on the Dodgers. You mentioned the Dodgers and the Jays are the Dodgers of the North, and there's other teams, the Yankees are involved. But I found it really funny that Vlad took 325 million of his 500 million in signing bonus distributed over 14 years. So he's got like 20 some $1 million per year in signing bonus. And the only reason for that is because if there's a work stoppage, a strike in
He makes his
particular,
money.
he doesn't get salary, but he does get signing bonus. So his representatives understood that this contract could lead to a work stoppage as the cumulative
Yes.
contracts of Shohei, of Juan Soto, of everybody that has created the need or the clamor for a salary cap. And it's not going to happen. Salary cap's not going to happen.
No, it's
But
not, and
but
nor should it happen. Nor
Vlad's
should it, by the way.
people understand that we need to hedge against there being a strike.
Vlad made out like a bandit of all bandits here. Come on. Like this could not have played out any better. He had the Jays over a barrel, the Soto contract, the timing of his free agency. Let me ask you, you do this last year, what's he getting? What were we all talking about? 325?
Yeah, we were talking about Rafael Devers money, which was like
And you
25.
should.
Yeah,
I mean, this is insanity what he got.
yeah.
And, I'm really curious to see if this continues to play this way as free agency. Like, this is the timing for Vladdy. God bless. 500
Yeah.
million. It doesn't even
But
make any sense compared to other contracts.
I think it won't because it's entertainment. It's no longer about sports. It's entertainment. And we've talked about this vaguely, but I mean, like if you have Brad Pitt at the top of your movie marquee
Yep.
and you got a guy, some schlub in the middle who's a good actor, but he's not Brad Pitt. Do you think he's holding out for the same money as Brad Pitt? No, because this is
Of course.
entertainment. It's what you produce. It's
Right.
what it's the reaction that you get. It's what you produce to a product. And with a movie, it's the number of screens that this movie is going to be on. And if Joe Schmo thinks it's about him, then he's delusional. And that's the same thing in baseball. Like there's a lot of good players out there, but they don't drive the market. And Vlad is on the borderline of that. And for an entire country, I don't think it would have been the same effect for Vlad anywhere else except in Toronto.
Fair. Like fair enough. And the timing of it too is perfect for him. Yeah.
So the question is then, what will be more popular? Holding out like Vlad did, like Soto did, like Shohei did, or signing early, like all these kids are doing now in their second and third and first years, signing 8-year deals. And is that more popular? Locking yourself in at an early age or
Sure.
waiting for the big bonanza?
No, no, no. It's clearly that. It's clearly that. Um, I think, from a player perspective, there's too much risk in not doing that kind of deal. You get life-changing money right away. Something goes sideways, you're still young enough to get that Vlad Otani contract after that initial deal rides out. Now, fair enough. I mean, with the arbitration system as it is, like what's Vladdy making this year anyways before the deal? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I include that 28.5 million, which is like
Right.
the largest arbitration settlement or pre-arb or pre-free agent arb year settlement. He didn't go to arbitration, but
The
28.5 is pretty damn
right,
good.
the point is though, if you sign that deal early enough, you are getting life-changing money that you may not get if A, you get injured, B, your performance suffers. You're not getting it. So it's always wise for both sides. That's why these deals get done. The famous line from Mark, which is correct, there's has to be risk on both sides. Well,
Yeah.
there didn't have to be any risk for Vladdy anymore.
No,
He lived through it.
I
There's no,
would,
but for the young guys, correct. You
yeah.
take a little risk, we take a little risk. We get a lesser base for a while and our player on board, and you get guaranteed money if anything goes wrong. You know,
To your
well,
point, I was trying to determine what the risk. I mean, we know the risk for the Jays, but what was the risk for Vlad?
0. He lived through the Arb years. There was no risk left for
Yeah,
him and clearly he didn't assume any risk whatsoever
right.
in this deal.
So good for
Like there's
Vlad.
no deferrals even. Like
Right. Yeah,
like
I mean, he's making 28.5 million, which was agreed upon before this deal arrived. And so the 14 years starts in 2026, and the 325 million signing bonus, they took 20 million of that and are giving it to him this year. So that's 48.5 million for this year. And then the average, the rest of the contract is really, I think, 32 or 33 million per year, which is 11th largest AAV in baseball. So when you look at it that way, I know it's a huge amount of money in a long-term deal,
it's a
but in
bargain, Griff. He gave him a bargain.
don't make fun of me, Mal.
I love your logic. Hey,
It's only 32
it's
point.
only.
Uh,
Thanks, buddy. Hey, by the way, just tell me if we're doing this in 10 years, this contract ain't gonna age poorly. I mean, holy Christ. Vladdy at 40 years old or whatever it is. I mean,
well,
I get it. You got to do it, but
I tell you what there won't be is there won't be Rogers Sportsnet showing every game every night. You're going to have to pay for your streaming and you're going to have to pay for every game you want to see. It'll be like a
you're right, Griff.
a la carte menu.
You're right. There'll probably be a late innings package, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, right. You're shut out until then.
Yeah, yeah. You're not like you're 100% right though. You're probably gonna have to pay by game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is
Which was the great attraction to going after Shohei Ohtani because you had a whole Asian market, a Japanese market, and they already were way ahead of the game in that regard in terms of streaming, and Rogers could have taken advantage of that. But in terms of sharing profit, the Dodgers was the only right solution for Shohei Ohtani. I
obviously.
mean, they're both making out like bandits, even though it says he's making 70 million a year, and you're saying he makes 46, and I think you're full of shit. But other than that,
I've been full of shit before, so I,
so we have discussed, and we've discussed this year's Blue Jays about how the rotation and defense are the keys and have been the keys to an 8-6 start as we speak on Friday morning. The first 14 games, so they're 14 games into the season. Last year was a cumulative 67 and two-thirds innings from your starters through 14 games. That's not even 5 innings a game. 5 innings. This year it's up to 80 innings. So that's 12 and a third more innings than by your starting pitchers than last year. How important is that, do you think, Mal, in terms of reducing the responsibility of the bullpen or the reliance on the bullpen group when the starters can go that deep?
Well, we talked about that out of the chute. This team's going to go as far as its rotation takes it. And so far, it's taken it. They've been outstanding. Like even talking about Bowden Francis and Easton Lucas. As we were talking before, Griff, like we said, when your starters give you what they're giving them, it just sets your bullpen up for success. Um, you're on plan A all the time. You map it out before the games. If here's the plan. Gosman goes this many innings, and then we're set up for maybe a left righty, and you get to Jimmy and Hoffman, and everything's just clicking, right? You're always throwing your best guys out there, and they're doing everything you can ask early in the season, like every night out, but opening day, and like you said, the one Scherzer outing, um,
Yeah, that's even with
big
a
deal.
three-inning Scherzer is 80 innings for 14 games. That's really
Yeah.
and you talk about the planning that goes into the bullpen with Pete Walker and Schneider and um, you can tell when a starter is struggling and you look out to the bullpen and Mason Fluharty and Jacob Barnes are warming up. Therein lies the monkey wrench to the bullpen players. If you have to in the middle of an inning bring those guys in, all bets are off.
Right, because you're hoping those guys can get you now back to Jimmy and Hoffman, and most likely that's not going to
Yeah,
happen.
you do not want to disrupt the pregame plan by bringing Jimmy Garcia in to get two more outs than was originally planned. You want to
Right,
use your other guys and jump in there, and that's why Nick Sandlin pitched the extra innings because you never planned for extra innings. But he
right.
did a great job the first day. The second day, which was the only loss to the Red Sox in 4 games, the second day the first ball went off the tip of Will Wagner's glove at third base. Then he got squeezed by the umpire a couple
Yep.
of times. It spiraled, it snowballed, and that's what happens.
Yeah, no question. And yeah, and Sandlin's been good too. So that he's a really key piece of that bullpen where he's a little more flexible than those other guys. You know what I mean? And it's nice to have a piece like that down there that can get you in and out of trouble sometimes when things don't go according to plan. But beyond that, the bullpen could use some improvements, and that can happen over a course of a season. Like guys come in and come out of the bullpen. Sometimes, you find guys that'll hit in a certain role and it lengthens your bullpen. But so far so far that rotation's been everything, and that's why they're 8-6. That's why they're not exactly tearing the cover off the ball, right? So
Yeah.
they're
So
they're what we thought we were, what they thought what they were.
the key to any contending team every year, and this goes back as long as you or I can remember, is that you need one or two players to surprise you coming out of your own farm system. And you need them to come out early and do a job that you weren't expecting to put you over the top. And we see that all around baseball. But this year, or last year in the second half, was Bowden Francis. This year, we've got Alan Roden, who's playing an everyday role, almost everyday role in the outfield. And you've got Easton Lucas, who, like we said, was thrown against the wall with 8 other scrubs, and he's stuck.
Mhm.
He Bowden Francis without the burning sage?
Maybe he should start. I don't know. Well, whatever he's doing, keep doing it. I mean, I don't think so. We talked last week. I mean, hey man, that was outstanding start against the Red Sox. That lineup's pretty decent, and he had command of everything. Like his fastball command was great. His off-speed stuff was great. Um, that was a masterful performance. I didn't expect that. So keep going, kid. But I don't know if he's got the stuff to continue. At least with Bowden, you can see, it's a little there's a little more there, I think. But that's why we watch baseball. So I can't wait for his next start now. It's all these stories emerge, especially early in the season. You never know. You never know. There's guys who get overlooked. Sometimes they you need another opportunity. They pick up something. They're always, pick up something in the off season and working with pitching coaches. It's a joy to watch. So I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I think it's unlikely, but
Well, what I love to see, and I agree with you. I mean, the command of his fastball, 94 miles an hour every time. I don't think he hit 95 more than once if he did at
right,
all. But he's like using all four quadrants of the strike zone. That's command. It's not just throwing strikes with your fastball.
right.
It's throwing strikes where you want, and that's like a variety of different pitches. You don't need to spin the ball to have more than one pitch in your repertoire. You know, if you throw up and away in the strike zone and down and in the strike zone at will, then that's pitching right there.
Well, and everything comes off the fastball. Always has, always will, as the legend himself, Pat Henkin, said when asked, "What's the most important pitch in baseball?" He said, "Fastball command, fastball command," and he's
Uh,
100% right.
And all those guys, Pat Henkin says, all those guys in the bullpen are failed starters.
Yeah, that's right. That's how it certainly used to be. No,
Yeah, right.
there's no question. I
Um,
don't know about anymore, but yeah,
so now we get to the top five list, which is relative to the discussion we're having.
right.
Easton Lucas doesn't even qualify on this list, but I want you to give me top
Settle
five,
down now.
top five homegrown starters in the 21st century of the Blue Jays homegrown starters, signed and developed, top five starters. And Easton Lucas doesn't qualify because he came
Yeah,
from other organizations.
right.
So going back to 2000, who you got on your five pitcher list? We'll
You want
start with
me?
number five, and then I'll
Okay.
go five, and then I'll go four, and you follow up with your four, etc. The snake top five.
Snake. Coming in at number five for me is Mr. Aaron Sanchez. Um, I mean, obviously, Aaron's career was derailed because of blister issues, and which is so unfortunate. There's no reason that should have had the impact it did on him, but he was so dominant in the return of the Blue Jays and the key time 2015 and things like that. And by the way, was a starting pitcher, dominant as well. But his work out of the bullpen, his that two-seamer and that curveball was just devastating. And for me, I mean, obviously, you could put other guys at five. There's a lot of guys there that could have made the list. Didn't make my list, like
Yeah.
McGowan, Romero. But for me, I just absolute dominant at the height of his powers was Sanchez. So you made my list at five. You?
Yeah. Just about Sanchez before, like that blister issues were the most head scratching common injury. He started an epidemic around baseball. I mean, he was just at the forefront of it, but
Yeah.
people were examining the baseballs. Was it the raised
There-
seams? Was it
You
slip
remember that?
or whatever?
It was
It's crazy.
crazy.
Yeah, it's like when they were hitting home runs in the late '90s. Joe Kerrigan with the Expos cut open the baseball to see if it was being. No, the baseballs aren't pumped. The
Yeah,
Mark
this is
McGuire's forearms were.
no question.
So my number five is Alek Manoah, and I know it's a small
Oh,
sample size, but I think that homegrown, a great Mexican hope or Cuban hope or whatever he is, um, but he's a guy that can come back because I've seen him develop as a person. I mean, he was arrogant, he was cocky, he was sort of.
immature.
Yeah. And now that he's battling adversity, I can see a different Alek Manoah. And from what he showed when he was young and overpowering in a way and with his stuff, he's on my
Hey,
list at number five.
I love Manoa. If the Jays are in the mix this year, he could be such a boost to this
Yeah.
team. That guy is a number one starter. I don't care. Like he
Like
is
Stroman was in
legit,
2015 when Stroman
right?
his knee and then came back later in the season, right?
Manoa's got way more than
Yeah.
even Stroh did. I mean, that Stroh was awesome. There's no
Yeah.
question. But man, Manoa is legit. So sorry.
Number four for me is Sean Markham. Very quiet, a mid-rotation guy. I think one time he was first or second in the rotation after Halliday left, but he lost me when he was whining about Halliday being too intimidating in the clubhouse. This was after Roy went to Philadelphia. He said, "Well, he's intimidating all the young guys." Stop it, just go out there and throw like Doc. But he's my number four. And I don't know where if you have him even on your list, but who's your number four?
He is on my list. My number four is Brett Cecil.
Oh, okay.
Um, again, but going back to the reemergence of the Jays as being contenders, uh, he was the 7 inning guy. You could lock in, and he was lights out. And boy, was he tough on everybody but lefties. It was good luck to you. And he came up as a pretty darn good starter as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So
He had the
he
credentials in the minor leagues for sure.
and he had a nice little career for himself.
Yep.
Like when there's a lot of guys you could choose that were in that mix, but for me, he I like the ceiling of those guys. That's why Sanchez and Cecil made my list because at the height of their powers, they were unhittable for a lot of nights. So
Yeah.
that's why he's on my
So
number four.
who's your number three?
My number three is Casey Jansen.
Well,
Casey Jansen.
you like guys that ended up as relievers, huh? Brett Cecil.
Well, he ended up saving 90 games in the big leagues without throwing 98.
Yeah.
Um, he was a thinking man's pitcher. I loved watching Jansen pitch, and he was a very effective starter before going down to the bullpen. And unlike these other guys, he was a closer. I mean, I get it. You know what I mean? Like he's not going to close for the World Series champions, but he did a tremendous job. I don't think people realize how good a pitcher Jansen was. Just
Yeah.
he could do it all as far as moving the ball around and thinking the
Wasn't
game.
wasn't he one of the main guys who stood up in the clubhouse in Houston at the trade deadline with Jose Bautista and
Yep.
complained about they didn't go out and do anything?
It was Jose and Casey. I
Yeah.
remember that
Yeah,
extreme.
I wasn't
That
there on that trip, but it
I
was
was.
remarkable. I figured you would be. It was trade deadline time.
I can remember talking to them about the impact and what it would mean if they did go publicly, because that was a different time when, let's just face it, Alex didn't have the resources as
Yeah.
they do now. So it was more of a budget issue, I think, than anything else.
I know
But
for sure.
sure, Alex certainly was not happy about it. But I will tell you, I think that certainly changed the approach the following year, didn't it?
Yeah,
Um,
because it was 2013 when they went for it and got R.A. Dickey and went and made that huge deal with the Marlins and became
right.
Vegas odds-on favorite.
Although I think that had more to do
And
with
they were
Beeston
terrible.
than anything else. But
Yeah, yeah, but I mean it's the same thing as the Vlad deal. It's an organization thing, even though it's not Mark or Ross. It's an organization thing, and the same thing in 2013 when they went for it.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, but that was certainly interesting times and interesting choices by the players for sure. That was fun.
My
But
number three is Aaron Sanchez. We've talked about him before. I put him number three on the list because, you talked about those guys who, to me, the guys on your list so far have been more recognized as bullpen guys. Um, but Sanchez, when he was coming up, I remember going to Buffalo for his first AAA start. Drove down to Buffalo, and like the entire front office was there to watch him pitch. And he knew it, and he didn't pitch that well. He didn't command that well, but he really would have been a tremendous major league career if not for those blister issues and then being set back by other things. But he's my number three.
I remember a bunch of my buddies, I think, went to that game too, and all they could tell us is, who is that catcher? Because he can't even handle Sanchez. It was Sean Ochinko, third baseman turned catcher. And I guess that day Sanchez's stuff was so nasty,
Yeah.
he couldn't handle him behind the plate. It was like maybe Sean shouldn't be a catcher.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he cost him a bunch of strikes, but maybe
Yeah.
like when you're stabbing at pitches because
Oh yeah,
you can't.
100%. So that was saying that's how nasty he was. So
Yeah. Number two on my list. I think it's my turn. Number two, right?
yep,
Number two on my list is Ricky Romero, and I seem to favor high draft picks who come out of the gate strong. And to me, Ricky Romero had a chance to really be something special coming out of Cal Fullerton. I remember being in the room when they flew him up and his dad and his little brother, and they were at Rogers Center or Skydome or whatever it was at that time. And he was a shy kid.
sure
I
was.
thought he was going to have a chance, and then he started to come out of the gate. And to me, the turning point, and we've talked about it, was in Tampa when Joe Madden loaded his lineup with left-handed hitters, and they tonged Ricky that night. And they asked Madden, "Why'd you put so many why'd you put all those left-handers in the lineup?" And he said, "I would have put more, but I don't have any." And like from that point on, I thought that there was a crisis of confidence in Ricky. And, we could talk to him about, we could have him on the show and talk to him about it. I'm sure he wouldn't be thrilled to talk about that portion of his career.
Yeah, it certainly, regardless, it wasn't the same very quickly. That's why I didn't have him on my list. I love Ricky, and I think he made two opening day starts, but it went south real fast. He just
Yeah.
didn't pitch well enough, long enough to make the list for me. But he was right in that mix of a bunch of guys. So.
So who's your number two?
My number two is actually Sean Markham. Again, a guy that just a devastating changeup he had. Boy, could like Jansen, and through that time, did he ever know how to pitch? Uh, just a pleasure to watch pitch. I mean, unfortunately for Sean, he was a bulldog on the mound and a bulldog off the mound too. So I think his he could have lasted a little longer if he'd took care of himself a little better. But
Yeah.
you know, and
So
also,
could both of us.
well, I mean, there's no question about that's not a criticism per se. It's just a
No, no.
statement of fact. I mean, I fully understand Sean's approach.
Yeah, going back to Montreal, I find that I've become a keen observateur of life.
Yes, me too. Strangely enough, speaking to that thing about Halliday, they were so intimidated. We were in New York City, and Roy didn't. You know how tough Roy was tough to approach.
Yeah.
Like you just didn't like you didn't bring things to Roy unless you were sure that because he'd stare right through you. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
remember
No,
like
tell me. I was a writer. I remember.
yeah, like if a visiting team wanted to have him on, you're like, don't even bother. Like
Yeah.
he's on radio. But I remember bringing a Cal Ripken show to him, and he could stay. He goes, "Yeah, I'll do that one." And it's new Ripken, right? He'll do
Yeah.
his show. But he did an event for what's is it the Babe Ruth League down there? Like I think they got two different minor league like minor
Yeah.
baseball systems in the States. So he agreed to do.
Connie Mack and yeah, one of the Little League and Connie Mack, I think.
So he agreed to do an appearance at a Boys and Girls Club in New York City for Babe Ruth League, which was unbelievable.
Yeah.
So they asked for two guys, so I had to take him and I took Markham. So we walked to the Boys and Girls Club, and obviously the three of us spent that time together, which you quickly realize what a massive moment it was for Markham. Like, they're both in the rotation, man. He was so. Anyways, we do the event and the kids are screaming and it was a tremendous event. Like Roy was a class act and Markham. So we finished the event and Roy goes, "You guys just want to grab a cab and go to the park." And I'm like, "No chance. It's too early." Even though I should have done it. I should have just taken the cab and then taken one back. You know what I mean?
Right.
So Markham did it. So Markham went in the cab. This is how intimidating he was. So when I got to the park, all the guys could talk about, Markham was like, "Dude, I rode in the cab with Halliday to the Yankee Stadium." And I'm like, "Dude, you're on his team." But That's how separate and intimidating Halliday was.
Yeah.
He was on a separate level. Like he was a legend on his own club. He wasn't, he wasn't one of the boys. He was this mysterious figure for everybody else. And Markham was so fired up that he got to ride in a cab with Roy Halladay to Yankee Stadium.
I went to cover the first round of the playoffs with the Phillies that year, and Halladay was in the interview room before the game, so the day before his start. And I put my hand up. I said, Doc, um, you know that when you left the clubhouse in Toronto, that there are relievers who are talking about how much more relaxed it is and how intimidating you were. You should have seen his reaction to that. He was so pissed.
I bet he was.
Yeah. And then the PR guy came and wrestled me to the ground, and
That's, I mean, that's part of the hazard of the job for you back then. You expect that. See how long you can stick around.
so you're number one. Who'd that be?
Number one is think obvious. We talked about him a bit already, but that's our boy Marcus Stroman. I think for all the trials and tribulations, as you say, and everything else Marcus brings, he also brings a lot of production. He's still pitching in the league. He has been an effective starter if you look at his numbers, over the years. He's never outside of the second half of last year, which was so legendarily bad. Um, he's
Yeah.
been a good pitcher every year. He's been a good pitcher. Uh, just
Yeah. When he still to this day, and Marcus and I have had run-ins, but
yes, I
um,
recalled them.
to this day, when he goes to the mound for whatever team he's pitching for, you expect him to go 5, 6 innings and keep
Yep,
you in a ball game,
3 runs or less.
balls, yeah, and strut around, and that's who Stroh is, and he's my
Yeah,
number one too. He's number one on my list, and to me, there's no doubt because the first thing he did was come back quickly from that injury, which
yes.
I think that was one of the first times he was mad at the media, and hey, look at me, I came back. I'll show.
What is that, Griff?
That's my daughter's cat. I'm babysitting.
Making a surprise appearance
I'm
later.
making a surprise appearance.
Yeah,
Mr. Rasho. He's named after Rasho Nestorovich, the great Raptors power forward.
that's hilarious. Is they
So
trying to tell you to wrap it up or what?
yeah, I guess so. He needs food, but yeah, Stroman coming back from that injury and then contributing down the stretch and in the postseason in 2015. To me, that was remarkable. That shows who he is. But he blamed the media. He blamed the media when it was the team at spring training that said he's out for the year. So who are we to question the team? Well, I know who we are to question the team. But he held that against the media. You guys doubted me. No, your team doubted you. They said
Right.
you're out for the year. And God
Yeah.
bless you and congratulations for coming back and really doing the job. And that is who Marcus Stroman to me was. He was
Well,
a battler, he was a fighter, height doesn't measure heart, all that blah blah blah. But he was to me the most important, the best 21st century signed and developed Blue Jays starter.
100%. And all those things that have hurt Marcus have also made him successful. It's
Yeah.
that attitude, I
Yeah.
think, that has made him who he is. So the good and bad, right? So
The only chip on my shoulder is barbecued fillets.
for
The
late night TV watching.
So we've done 1 to 5. Let me just read down the list of other candidates that we ignored who had 10 or more, homegrown guys who had 10 or more starts with the Blue Jays in the major leagues and aren't on our list. I'll just read quickly. Brandon Lyon, Mark Hendrickson, David Bush, Gustavo Chacin, Dustin McGowan, who you mentioned, Jesse Litch, David Percy, Scott Richmond, Mark Zubchinski, Henderson Alvarez. I love Henderson Alvarez.
Oh, if he pitched longer, he'd be at the top of the list. That guy was something.
Drew Hutchison, Marcus Stroman. Oh, I got him. Sorry. Ryan Barucki. Ryan, people forget he had
Still
9
going.
starts. Yeah.
Still in the league.
Sean Reed Foley, who was I won't mention. Jacob Waguespack and Yariel Rodriguez. So that's the
Right.
list. So it hasn't been that hasn't been a great success for the Blue Jays in
What
development.
hasn't been great for this current management group for sure.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean,
Outside of
on that
Manoa,
list, you see Manoa,
yeah, there is hope.
Yariel.
There is hope. As
Yeah,
you mentioned at the start of this thing with Yusevich and Steven and guys, like there's hope at least.
yeah, for sure.
And will we ever hear the name Ricky Tiedemann at some point? You know what I mean?
I think like you look at Chris Sale and his comeback and Ricky Tiedemann when he was a kid, drew comparisons there. And Sale has been hurt and come back. So maybe there is a chance for Tiedemann. If there is, he's still only, I think, 22. So
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
a great call right there in terms of looking ahead. Um, all right. So that about wraps it up. But what about Varsho? When do you think he'll come back and can they improve? The defense has been really good. What kind of an
Yeah,
impact will he have at the plate? Do you think his spring training stats are going to carry over? Because
uh,
he was
I
playing
think
without
we
being able to throw.
I think we know what Varsho is.
Yeah,
I think you're going to get that back. Obviously, you're getting plus defense, but I mean, you have not been hurting with Miles Straw out there. You can't. I'm not going to believe that Varsho is better than Miles Straw. And I know Varshow's the best in baseball, but
yeah.
I mean, we're splitting hairs. I mean, Straw's not out there all the time. Don't get me wrong. He's certainly a lot better than Springer and Lucas and those guys. So yes, it's going to improve. There's no question.
Well,
But as far as I mean, I think even with his limited offensive abilities, that I don't know if that's the right word. It's going to add something.
yeah,
He's a 20 home run guy. You know what I mean? He's a smart player, Varsho.
yeah.
He
And
runs the
we
bases well.
also have emphasized that this team is all about rotation and defense, and he adds to one of those.
Yeah, he
So
does.
yeah.
He does. So that can
So
help.
when he comes back, here's a question right now on April the 11th. Lucas, Straw, or Davis Schneider? Who's the odd man out in your mind?
Well, I mean, come on, man. It has to be David Schneider. And I know everybody thinks probably Straw, but Straw can do stuff for you. He can defensive replacement. He can run. You know what I mean? And I mean, Schneider right now, unfortunately, isn't giving you anything. He can't play defense, and
Yeah.
unless he's you know banging balls off the wall, there's not a lot that he could do for you, and he's not hitting at all. So, I mean, I think it makes sense that Schneider's the one that you
Yeah.
send away.
The only thing, well, I was going to say Nathan Lucas because he's a left-handed hitter, and whoever thought we would be saying there's too many left-handed hitters on this team.
Right? Right?
But yeah, Straw to me isn't going anywhere. You're paying him guaranteed money, so and he can run and he can play defense.
The only thing is maybe you send Lucas down because you just want him to play and you
Yeah.
don't care if Schneider plays. You know what I mean? Like so that could happen too because you don't want Lucas
Yeah,
just
and,
sitting on the
and in
bench.
fact, if you send Davis Schneider down, where does he play in Buffalo? Like, where would you put him on a daily basis when you're trying to develop players at all the positions at which he plays?
Right. Right. So I mean,
Here's a number for you. In the season following a sub 500 season, in the history of the Blue Jays, the next year they're 7-13 under 500. So 13 and 7. So they've finished under 500 13 of the 20 seasons following a sub 500. So that's
that
sort of
makes sense.
yeah.
That
Uh,
makes sense.
yeah.
You're just
Um,
bad.
but one of them was of course the Tim Johnson year where they were under 500 and then they went out and that's the first time post World Series years that they tried to sort of rebuild in a hurry. They got
Yeah.
Darren Fletcher, Clemens was there, and yeah,
Tim Johnson.
and
Tim
they went.
Johnson was having none of that.
they went to. I love Tim Johnson. Don't make fun of
Right.
me. Um, let's see now. Oh yeah, apologies necessary for Tyler Heineman from both of us. Because
100%. I was reluctant last week,
this
but I
dude is
can no
playing
longer
like
be
a starting
reluctant.
catcher.
I mean. Kirk better be careful. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I
But
mean,
even if
Hokies.
Heineman goes into a slump and goes like 0 for 15, his numbers will still be better than we anticipated. And like, oh, they lost, so he's 3-2 in the 5 starts he's made, which is okay.
And he's hitting 500.
Yeah, I know that's crazy. One more thing. Your Ironbacks. Do you have any update on the summer league team coming up? Give the website again and
Ironbacks.ca, as I keep mentioning, we're very close to a lot of things. I think you'll see very soon. In fact, starting next week, absolutely check our social medias, please. We're going to be releasing jerseys, ticket information, and and signings absolutely starting next week. So get on the socials. You're going to see that be ready to buy some tickets. We're less than 2 months away. And a lot is going on. The minute I leave this call, it's back to 24/7 Ironbacks outside of watching some Blue Jays baseball. So,
perfect. At some point in the summer, you and I will have to do a exit philosophy podcast from the press box at the stadium in St. Catharines and watch your Ironbacks play.
yes, absolutely. I plan on it.
Anyway, thanks everyone for listening in, and thanks for participating once again. And Mal, thanks for hosting with me. And it's been fun. We'll talk to you again next week.
See ya.